Barber. I'm the Director of Health Services for Tyler ISD, so welcome to St. Louis and our first SHAC meeting of the year. So today is a little bit decreased attendance. A lot of people are out ill, unfortunately, or they had other work commitments that they just couldn't get away from. So we will go around the room, and I'd like everybody to introduce yourselves so that we know who's in attendance. Tell us what your name is, if you have students in the district and what campus they're at, or what community organization that you're here to represent, or if you have a parent and community organization, if you're kind of in a dual role today, let us know. So we'll start over here with Dr. Price.
I'm Danny Price, pediatrician at St. Paul Children's Clinic. I'm a SHAC member. Two kids that went through TISD, and it's obviously very much into kids' health.
I'm a parent of two kids at Colorado.
I'm Jamie Fitzpatrick. I'm the new float nurse for the district. I'm Kathy Means, and I'm one of the nursing supervisors for health services.
I'm Christy Hansen. I am Assistant Superintendent of Academic Support for the district.
Stephanie Fears, and I'm the Executive Director of Mercy Manor, and we are partnered with Esteem to present curriculum to youths in the community.
Go back to Evan.
Yvette Arce, and I'm one of the educators of the STEAM program.
I'm Christina Kirkpatrick. I'm an occupational therapist for the district, and I'm also a parent. I have a student at Legacy.
I'm Chastity Denham, and I have two kids. I'm a parent. I have two kids at Jack, twin, 8-year-olds, and then my oldest is a 7th grader at Hubbard.
And I think you're on the board, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. And I'm secretary this year. So
I recognize your name. So.
everybody.
I'm Laura Rhodes. I'm also on the board. That's the reason I know your name. I think I'm co-chair. Is that what we decided? Okay, sorry. There was lots of emails back and forth. I'm actually a parent of a senior at Legacy. I also work for UT Health. I'm not here representing them, but I do work at the hospital. So if you have any questions about our numbers and daily COVID calls and all the things that are going on right now, I'm happy to answer those outside the meeting or whatever.
I'm Catherine Keffler. I'm a parent. My daughter just started at Legacy. She's a freshman. And then I also have a grown son who's a teacher in Austin.
I'm Ramona Taylor. I'm a parent of two that are attending Moore and two that are attending Douglas.
And my name is Barbara Clay. I am a past student of TISD, graduate of I still call it John Tyler, not Tyler High, sorry. I have two grandchildren. One is in 8th grade at Moore. The other is a 3rd grader, just started at Ely Woods this year. And I'm retired, and I'm just here to help in any capacity that I can.
I'm Amanda Beard, and I am a parent. I have a son in 4th grade at Ely Woods, and I work in community for Avoidance.
Hi, and I'm Kristen Bentley. I have a son that is at Legacy. He's a junior. I also have a 5-year-old who we're homeschooling this year. Aside from that, I'm a special education advocate. I was a special education teacher prior to that, and have a master's in special education.
Welcome, everybody. We also have one of our other co-chairs that wasn't able to be here today because she's out ill, Kristen Suberbiel. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. So she'll be able to join us at our next meeting. So Tanya Waite was going to be here to present the esteemed curriculum to you all today. Unfortunately, she is also out ill, but I'm going to let Dr. Hansen and the ladies from Mercy Manor take over that presentation.
So thank you. For those of you who may be new to this committee, one of the things that the committee does is they review the sex ed curriculum. And so we used to, for years, use the esteemed curriculum. The esteemed curriculum was written by educators and actually people that were on our SHAC. And so it has a feel, an East Texas feel. It has sort of it works pretty well for our particular community. but we have brand new, we went away from it for 2 years. We couldn't afford it, and we found that people were not using it, and all the things. So we went to a curriculum, an online curriculum, and used that for a while. And I would say we've had limited success with that. It's very difficult to monitor, and it's hard to know exactly what conversations everybody, that people are having. So with the new health standards and the new sex ed standards, we really felt like we needed to have a curriculum that was more cohesive and something that we had a lot of support in being able to monitor and explain to parents. And so that's why we re-entered into a conversation with STEAM with Tanya Wade about the STEAM curriculum, and then we happened upon this partnership with Mercy Manor. So I'm going to let you guys talk a little bit about that, and I'll come back and talk about the curriculum. Okay?
Okay. Yeah. So with Mercy Manor and our partnership with Esteem, I know many of you may not be familiar because of us being in Gregg County, but Mercy Manor offers intervention and services for young ladies in crisis pregnancy. And so we have partnered with a lot of the local schools there and things like that. If they were to have a young lady within their hallways or what have you experiencing a pregnancy, we have a home that houses young ladies ages 13 to 17. And then we're also just available for anyone within the community that might need assistance. Their parents or guardians may not necessarily know how to navigate that tough situation, and so we come alongside them and educate on both parenting and adoption, and then help them to be successful at the plan that their family chooses. And so with that being said, we started teaching the risk avoidance curriculum to our clients, just really hoping to keep from any repeat cycles and things like that from taking place. And when we started seeing the response from within our clients, I went and talked to our board of directors and said, I really think we need to move in a direction where not only we're providing intervention for those that need help, but where we are trying to work ourselves out of a job and creating prevention in any way possible. And so we actually applied for and received a grant that helps us now. So we were able to kind of partner with Esteem, and we now have a grant that is helping us to do this for some of the schools within 7 counties at no charge to the schools. And so we are just extremely passionate about the youth and the population that we serve, just wanting them to avoid all risky behaviors. This curriculum, we fell in love with it because it speaks to the whole person. It's not just about sex ed. It speaks to the entire person of social, mental, physical, all of those things. And it just allows us to be able to really promote an entirely healthy lifestyle, not just in this one area, but in all areas and all walks of life. And that was one of the reasons that we fell in love with it and became so passionate about it, because it was right down from decision making and setting goals, all the way to the prevention of all of the risky behaviors. And so that being said, it has been updated. I'm not sure if the books that we have here, some of these, if they say 3rd edition, we kind of brought some of our older books that some of the health tips and things changed that back in January. And so they are now publishing the 4th edition so that we are up to date on all of the new health tips and things like that. This is one of our sweet educators here, and she does bilingual education for us as well. Miss Yvette, did you want to share some stuff?
Yeah, it's been a blessing to be able to be out in the community and school districts, teaching, like Mrs. Fear said, teaching risk avoidance, And like she said, it's not only that, but we also teach goal settings. We teach how to discover your self-esteem. And there you have some examples of the books that we use. It's usually 10 classes. And in every class, we have the opportunity to interact with the students. We do games to make it in a fun and interesting way. We also, at the end, we have a service learning project that we work together as a part of the class that we take. So it's a project that we work together. It can be a need in the school, or it can be a campaign they want to do awareness. So I've been seeing great results in those kids are taking the classes. Parents are happy to know that their kids are talking about topics that they don't usually talk at home. So it's a great program.
Can I also add one more thing? I had forgotten to mention that in every one of the grades, grade 5th through high school, there are 10 core lessons and topics, and with each year, with each grade, the maturity level broadens a little bit. And so they're kind of being reinforced from year to year on the same exact topics, but at a maturity level that is appropriate for their age. And I'll let you take
Right,
over.
so we'll talk a little bit about sort of the process of what we do when we choose curriculum inside the district is we typically have, or when we choose materials, we typically have focus groups that look at the specific material. They determine, what's appropriate, what's not, what's going to fit the needs of students. In Tyler, we do not veer from the State Board of Education recommended list. A lot of districts do that. We just don't do that because we know that the State Board has vetted those materials, and therefore we know that it's going to be as closely aligned with the standards as possible, and there's less of a likelihood that people will veer off and start doing things based on whatever their own value system is. So it's one of the reasons why we began to look at STEAM again, because when the health standards changed, previous when we talked about sex in the classroom or sex ed, the standards said that our only option was to talk about abstinence. Well, the standards have changed to talk about other choices as well. And so we wanted to make sure that we were aligned with the standards very tightly. And we have a lot of confidence in Tanya and what she does with this curriculum. So when she approached us about the partnership with Mercy Manor and also getting the materials free, that was an added bonus. We still were looking at it even without that because we just wanted to make sure that we were following the standards to a T. The process for us would be that the SHAC has to approve it. Then we take it to the board and the board has to approve it. And then from there, we would have a parent night so that parents could come and look at the curriculum and all the lessons. They could ask questions. They could have access to all the materials, which we do that now. Before we adopt any books or anything, parents have full access to all that before we adopt it, and they get to give their input. And then from there, we send out notices to parents. In the past, it was an opt-out. The curriculum was opt-out. Now it is opt-in. So you have to have an opt-in letter where the parent actually gives permission for their child to participate. And then Mercy Manor would help us by helping sort of kick off the 10 lessons. Our teachers would teach it, but they would have to go through extensive training. Then about in the middle, they would check on them, and then they would also help us throughout with the monitoring. We also, just so you know, have a new position, Haley Skinner, who is able to completely monitor PE and health so that we have someone who's more concentrated on that. Whereas before it was kind of an add-on to another position. So we really placed a lot of emphasis on making sure that we do this well this time, because I think that was one of the things that last time we didn't have the resources to follow up, and we're not sure it got done well, if it got done at all. The other thing about the STEAM curriculum is they've taken a lot of the graphics and they've taken them out of the workbook and they've put them in separate PDFs so that as is appropriate, the teacher can then kind of pick and choose on which graphics they're going to use depending on the appropriateness for their kids and the maturity of their kids, and does it seem like they're going to be able to handle those conversations. These are gender specific. We try to do gender specific. So the way we do it in Tyler is 6th grade, 5th grade is going to be done by the nurses. 6th grade is going to be done in PE by either the girls' PE coach or the boys' PE coach. 7th grade is going to be done within the science curriculum, and we would designate the campus would then have to determine when they were going to teach it so that we could schedule that with the Mercy Manor staff. So that's how we're doing that at this point. 9th grade is going to be taught inside the health class. There's a health class. In Tyler, we have a health class that is required for graduation. Not all districts do that. That's not a state requirement, it's a district requirement. So it would be taught within the health class. So I say 9th grade, if they take it in 9th grade, it would be done during health class.
Who's teaching on the 8th grade level? You skipped that one.
No one's teaching, we're not doing 8th grade.
Okay.
Yes, skipping 8th grade. Yeah.
Okay.
We tried that with social studies teachers and that did not work out, so we're just not doing it. And the state requires us to teach at 7th or 8th grade, so we're teaching it in 7th.
Just a quick clarification. So when you say gender specific, do you mean all the girls are together and all the boys are together? And then do the girls have a female teacher?
Ideally, yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be the goal for sure. We know that would be the ideal situation for sure. Not all girls' PE classes have female coaches, so then they have to make arrangements to supplement with counselors or nurses or whatever to help with some of that. Yes.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I will.
Okay.
I do have 2 students that went to Moore, or going to Moore.
Okay.
I have the other one, their friend is also going to Moore. They have taken the class on Thursday and Friday. I was a little concerned at first about sending them, but after picking them up and just hearing from them of what their takeaways, I was really excited about it, and just knowing that they wanted to return the next day. Their key takeaway was basically the abstinence and also cyberbullying, and the third one was the 10-year goal. You know, the poster, they were excited to do that, which they finished at home. So I just wanted to share that with y'all, that it's really good, a really good class and everything, and they enjoyed it.
I think that's a really good point, because I'm focusing so much on the health standards, because that's the part that can go awry really quickly. But that's only really one very small piece of the entire 10 units. So I want to make sure I'm really clear that there's a lot about building self-esteem, about how to set boundaries with people, how to speak up for yourself. There's some drug avoidance and risky behavior. I mean, there are great lessons in here that go well beyond, our sexual experiences. So I just want to make sure that I make that really clear, that that's actually a very small part, and it's only one small standard in the whole health standards. But sometimes it can be the one that causes the most trouble if we don't get it right. So.
And you mentioned that the Texas state standards have changed, so
Yes.
it's no longer required to be abstinence only. So does this have content, particularly for sex ed, that is not
Yes.
abstinence only?
I'm sorry.
flipping through, but it's hard to.
It has to align with the state standards.
Yeah.
So they do introduce, in the previous versions it was abstinence only.
Right.
now they do talk about other options, but they talk about the risks of all those options.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure because I know I've been looking at some of the research and the data on it, and abstinence-only programs aren't the best out there. That's what I want. I'm actually pro adding on to that, so I didn't want to make that clear.
The ESTEAM program talks about, they really show a lot of data, and Tanya sent me all of that information, all that data. So they do a great job of being very clinical about it, like this is the data. So people who are abstinent, this is what these are the outcomes. And people who, are on the pill, these are the outcomes. And and people who use condoms, these are the outcomes.
Yeah.
So it's very clinical, like this is what happened,
Right.
These are your chances and these are your outcomes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just know our state is behind the rest of the country. Our average, particularly for teen pregnancy, is well above. So just sticking with what's good in Texas isn't working for us right now. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, this is aligned with, the new version is aligned with the standards.
Okay.
Were there any other changes handed down from the state?
Yeah, as far as the health, yes, there were several health standards that changed, and honestly, Dr. Price, I'd have to go through each one.
Well, we
but-
included sex ed.
Yeah, no, basically, being able to talk about risk avoidance and on the various factors. There was some STD things that changed as far as how we talk about those. And then the abstinence only versus the other options of avoiding pregnancy. And so those were the big ones.
So we kind of increased our work on making it an opt-in. Did they give reasons why that?
Yes, because an opt-out for middle school and high schoolers, a lot of times the parents don't see it. And so they find out later that their student has participated in something, and it was an opt-out, and so they felt unaware. Parents just felt unaware. So
that's a state requirement that it's an opt-in.
It's an opt-in.
Makes no
And
sense.
is there any way that you get deemed if your numbers get too high of people that are not opting in? So funding doesn't get affected by it.
I didn't know, in each one of their packets, we have at the very back of them, there's multiple different little stapled handouts. And you'll see at the top where it talks about 5th grade, knowledge and skills of 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade high school. So on these are the different health requirements that are listed within each grade by the state of what you're supposed to be teaching. And then if you'll look over here to the side, it's going to list all of the page numbers where these things are actually addressed. So you can see exactly what the curriculum covers and what areas of things they cover and don't cover and things like that. So it kind of breaks it down for you so that you don't have to go on a quest and try to figure all of that out. But it does have for each one of the grades and what all is covered and the pages in which it's covered on.
Ask you a question. What level is this that we're looking at?
The excursion is the 5th grade.
That's the third version. I don't think it's.
Did anybody else need a book? Does everybody have one? Did you need one? Did that, will you take one of these as well? I didn't get her a whole. There you go.
So I thought what we could do is just let you guys look through the material, and we'll come back at the end and answer any questions and see where you are as far as us moving forward, or if you feel like we need more time to review it.
actually requires all of our educators with the program that is doing the grant work and presenting this, everybody has to get certified and trained in the Ascend, and it is extremely extensive.
So this
And
is
so
another curriculum program?
that is where it comes from. That is what we get certified in from the state to be able to present.
Good information.
Yes, ma'am. And it is,
Rivers?
I tell you what, we had, because Dr. Baxter went through it with us, Dr. Valerie Baxter, and we had a psychologist. There was just multiple college professionals that went through that, and we were all, woo. They gave us a book about that big that was pre-course work that we had to do ahead of time. It's a lot of information, but it's good. I mean, it's all good information. And it is a pretty stringent requirement from the state.
Are there any questions we can answer for you?
I guess I'm curious how long the grant is for. I realize that's not our grant, it's your grant, but I mean, I wouldn't want to, sign on to something like this and then say, oh, your grant funding's gone and never mind. So just curious.
The good news is that the stream of revenue that does this grant is long-standing. So far, I believe it is 19 years that it has been in effect, where it has been the steady stream of money and funding for this. And so we don't foresee there being a drop-off in the
Do you have to
funding.
reapply for the grant every so often though?
We do, yes, ma'am. So they are 5-year cycles. Even though we do have to reapply and do all of that, normally they're done in like 5-year cycles. We actually got in on the middle, but we were kind of in a unique position where we got in on the middle of this cycle. They realized that they did not spend all the money that they had to spend, which was good for us. So it allowed us the on-ramp to be able to get in and to start in the cycle with them. And so it goes from October to October. We are in the midst of a cycle right now, and we've been presenting at different community events and having kind of like some summer camp style with apartments and different locations and things like that, Boys and Girls Clubs, through the summer, reaching the population of youths. And so we do not foresee that falling off. Of course, there's never a guarantee when it comes to grant money, but we do foresee kind of a long haul there.
Okay.
Also with district funds, I cannot commit district funds. Like that's not within my purview to do.
Sure.
I can tell you that we have, right now, we're very fortunate in that we have COVID relief funds that would help us if their grant by some chance fell through. For the next several years, we have the COVID relief fund that is giving us some supplemental income. And also the curriculum itself is not cost prohibitive so much that we couldn't probably move some things around once we don't have the COVID relief funds. Also, these would qualify under instructional material allotment as well. So, which is where we buy our textbooks from.
Right.
We definitely love the fact that every student gets a workbook and journal that goes into their hands versus sometimes in a previous curriculum that we had started using back years ago before we were introduced to STEAM, where everything was loose leaf handouts and things like this. This allows students to have their journal, have something to hold on to. It's not just papers that you find laying on the floor or what have you that may not have even made it into the backpack. And with it being a sequel, they can kind of even go back and see from year to year on, oh, that's where I've kind of grown in that department or area.
So in years past, the difficulty was to actually get these home, not having to go in the trash can on the way out of the gym. So do y'all have any tricks up your sleeve for restarting this? Get them actually home, the parents see them?
So a lot of that will fall on us. Part of the, just full transparency, part of the difficulty we had was being able to monitor implementation. And I think having the partnership at the beginning, even if by some unfortunate chance the grant doesn't last into a couple of years, having that support initially will get us off to the right start so that we can set that expectation of how we expect teachers to implement it and what the follow through is related to all of that, including the parent night. For example, we really had to leave so much up to the campus and really couldn't do a lot of couldn't work at it from a systemic approach before. And now we have the ability with the assistance of Mercy Manor to be able to really get it off from a systemic approach. And then if by some chance that doesn't work out as far as the grant, then we're able to sustain that, we think.
And one of the really neat things with this curriculum is that they do offer a parent support. And so there are actually questions, like lesson questions for parents to where they can go online. If we're coming in and presenting once a week for 12 weeks or what have you, if we're gonna be coming once a week, the parents are actually able to go online, pull up questions for that particular lesson that we're on that week, and then that night over dinner or what have you, so tell me about this, this, and this that you learned today, to where it starts to bring in the discussion also around the table at home or in the living room, what have you, and isn't just left to the parent's imagination of what did my child learn or what have you. So in the parent night, they're given all of that information on how they can follow along right with us, and to be an active participant themselves in the evenings.
But these are just for the students who opt in to
Correct.
receive. So what
Correct.
happens to those who do not? Those who probably need it.
Library.
Well, here's the truth of the matter. The
It's like
truth of the
the
matter
health
is
class.
any parent can opt out of any part of any curriculum at any time. So, as a parent, you can tell the school, I don't want my student to learn about World War I. They can do that at any time. So if they opt out of that, then the student loses the content. I'd like to have a better way of saying that, but that's what happens. Yes?
I just want to say that when I was an educator, I always came from the perspective that parents know what's best for their children. And so I had a real respect for my parents in my classroom, that if they had their child's best interest in mind. 99.9% of parents love their kids more than anything in the world and know what's best for their kids. And so if a parent is opting their child in to this kind of curriculum, I think that's great, because this is really good curriculum. I just went through it. I don't think there's anything in this curriculum that would offend a parent here in Tyler.
Right.
And so I think that that's really important for parents to opt in, is that we let them know that this is really good curriculum that isn't going to be offensive. A lot of parents right now are very on the defensive about what is happening in sex ed in schools and critical race theory and all of that, especially in this community. And so I think to get parents to opt in, we just need to educate them about the curriculum and let them be able to see through it, do all those things. Because of course we want kids to get this kind of education. There's curriculum in here that addresses executive functioning, emotional regulation, all those
So
things
good.
are really good.
So good.
Yeah, so I think, but I do think it's important. It's something I think that was a strong quality that I had as a teacher, that I saw my parents as knowing their children most, knowing more than me about their child, and honoring that.
No question. That really answers your question, that parents completely have the autonomy to decide.
So to extend on her question though, if a child's parent has not opted in, sorry, I have to think about that hard, because it doesn't make much sense to me, but they're taking a health class because it's a required class for graduation, what do they do during the period of time where this is taught?
That we give them alternative assignments. Which is what we do. That happens.
Yeah,
It does.
no, I'm sure it does. And unfortunately, I don't know what the percentage is. I would love to think that 99.9% of all parents have the best interest at heart for their children, but I don't find that to be true in my practice. So.
Well, I was a mandated reporter as a teacher, and I think that was a huge responsibility, and I always came from the perspective that parents do the best for their kids. They love their kids more than anything, and they want the best for their kids.
I think
Of course,
parents always
there are exceptions
do the
to
best
that.
they can. It's not always the best for the
Parents
kids.
do the best that they can, but they do it because they come from a place of caring and loving.
Well, unfortunately, we can't change the legislature's mind right now, so that's a moot point.
So the point here is that the curriculum lays out all the pieces. I agree, it's very good. I think it is something that really every parent can work with if they want to go into more detail with their kids. Obviously, they have the option to do that with some of the parent questions and conversations. And so I think it can really be a positive thing. And the parent nights obviously are key, so the parents understand what it is that Mercy Manor and or our staff in support are going to be going through with the kids.
And so at the parent night, the parents would be able to look through?
They would actually be able to look through the exact.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And then also, like, say for instance, each lesson, is that a daily, or say they have health 3 times that week? Do they each time that week have the lesson one, or is it just one class per week per lesson?
It depends on how the school sets it up. We try to do it in a unit so that all 10 are taught within a short period of time.
Okay.
So that they can have some continuity of services. And also because we'll be coordinating with Mercy Manor and their staff. So we can't, in the past, that was something like a coach, not that coaches are bad, but they have other things going on as well. So they might say, oh, I'm going to do 1 a week for the next, or 1 a month for the next whatever. Well, we're like, who even remembers what we learned a month ago?
Right.
So we'll be able to monitor that more, and that there were so many flaws with our other system that I think that we have a plan.
Yeah. And then also, say for instance, there was like, say for instance, a 5th grader and they, wanted to opt out of just the lesson of, the maybe sex ed or the flooding the puberty course, for instance. Say that they, the parent did not feel that that was the right time yet for them. Can they opt out of lessons, or do you have to complete all 10 lessons?
That's a good question. I don't know that we've entertained it.
That would probably be a more Tanya-specific
Yeah.
question. What I can tell you
They build on
is-
each other, so I just don't know how that would
Right.
work.
Yeah, but what I can tell you is that sometimes kids are absent. I mean,
Yeah.
they may miss a lesson, but of course we want them to get as much of the content as possible. So if we have the option to teach them 9 of the 10 classes, I feel like we would jump on that, because it's a matter of anything that they get is going to empower them and educate them and bring them to a higher level of understanding of themselves and optimal health, for just in their decision making and different things like that. And so I would assume, like, again, I don't want to answer for Tanya, but I would think, just like if a child was absent or something like that, we would love to get them as much of the content as possible. So if they're only good with, 9 of the 10 lessons, 8 of the 10 lessons, our goal is the same as y'all's, is to make them the healthiest versions of themselves. Yeah.
I will tell you that for the elementary, Rachel and her staff have worked really hard to find curriculum that the nurses could work with the kids to start talking about, menstrual cycles and all of the, adolescent things and it's a struggle, especially for the boys, right? Like, we found some things for the girls that worked okay, but for the boys, she really struggled. So, we feel really good about being able to bring in a STEAM at the elementary to kind of help with some of those conversations with our boys in 5th grade.
Is there a deadline for a parent to opt in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we'll have all of that in the letter, and I can't tell you what it is because it depends on when the school's starting it.
I understand.
So yes, they would have to opt in by a certain time in order for the student to participate.
Okay. If, let's say that deadline comes and goes, a parent initially doesn't feel comfortable opting in at that time, and let's say we've got this deadline here, a week or so later they decide, hey, their kids are talking with other kids taking the course, and they feel more comfortable with it. Will they be able to opt in later?
I think we will have to talk through that with
Okay.
Tanya to make sure that if they miss a lesson or 2, that it still can work. So that's a great question. We can iron all those out for sure.
And we have done that in the past, but it wasn't with us being within this grant cycle. So it was just us providing it for our community. And we did have where a teacher called a parent because their parent decided to opt out their child, and a teacher called the parent at the end of our first lesson and said, hey, I really think your kid is missing out. You know, I sat in on this today, and this is stuff that I really feel like would be missed if your child doesn't attend. And they were there at our next class. So, again, that was not within the grant. And so we would have to kind of, you know, weigh those things.
Figure it out.
Right. With Tanya, those are.
Are the books provided in Spanish as well for kids or other languages?
We're in the process of getting that done. We do have Yvette, she teaches, is our bilingual teacher that can teach in Spanish, and we are in the middle of working towards getting the curriculum printed in Spanish. As of right now, it is only in English, but it is translated.
Yeah, and it will be good also to have the parents' night in Spanish, so the Hispanic parents can understand the content and also somehow be educated in those topics. And I was going to add that when we provide the curriculum to the community, what happened is maybe the second day, every kid brings a friend or a family member because, I mean, they like it and they know how important it is, and then what we do is that we catch up with what they missed in the day before or the days before. So we try to provide the content and to be flexible, and like Ms. Fear says, to make them being able to be in the classes.
And a lot of the students have really also enjoyed the service project that we are able to offer with this grant. At the end of each presentation, we have kind of throughout the curriculum implementation been encouraging the students to look around them, see where there might be something that needs improvement, see where there might be something that could be done right there in their community as a service project. And so we have had, and of course it's not a requirement for students to participate, but that is one thing that they have really, I think, found to be an exciting end to finishing the curriculum, is getting to come in and make a difference in their community. I mean, being empowered to, and it's student-driven, student-led. We may kind of help keep them within some boundaries of what we're able to do, but they have really enjoyed being able to give back to their community by doing some projects. And some of those, I mean, some of the ones that we have done, not too long ago, a group made dog toys for an animal shelter where we took old t-shirts and they would braid them up and have knots on either end to where you could, you know, have a little tug toy or whatever with, and then they were giving those to animal shelters and things like that. They have done, they partnered with Zonta, one of our groups partnered with Zonta on the Free the Girls, and over 2,000 bras that they separated, categorized, sized, and then shipped to third world countries for women that have been rescued from trafficking to help them create a living of their own by selling these bras. And so, I mean, there's multiple different things that are options, but the kids really do enjoy, the youth really do enjoy having ownership of some of those things and being able to kind of give back to the community.
Well, and the more you educate them and the more that they are involved, as far as being somebody that's involved in a youth organization, both in the community and in the church, because I work with, in our church group, a lot of kids that come from adverse backgrounds. And being somebody that's been through some training of this sort, I know how important it is for them to have a voice so that they are allowed to be able to express what's happened to them or how they can help somebody else to avoid it. So I think this is a great great thing to get started on.
Near that help with the parent buy-in, do I consider them talking to the Tyler PTA council and see if that's something they would be able to spread out?
That's a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. And at some point, I don't know if we can do it today because the meeting's going on, I can talk sort of about that social emotional piece and how, you know, the partnership and how we're working on that this year as well, and how those would work together, because we've really beefed that up as well for the kids, which I think would be interesting for this committee to hear about. Put that on the note of your
And the information session, will any of that be available online for parents who, for whatever reason, can't make it into?
We certainly are probably going to need to look at some virtual option. We won't just put it out there probably on the web because there's proprietary issues and you can read things and they're misunderstood. And so that we probably will need to look at virtual options this year. We're not naive enough to think that we're all done with that. We don't love virtual options right now because we just don't feel like we get the relationship impact. But we'll probably have to do something like that. We're pretty realistic.
I think it just would be good for parents to be able to look somewhere, get as much information as they can easily, like without having to seek it out as much, you know.
Yeah.
And that way they can make a good decision on, you know, what is being provided instead of just saying, I'm not going to let anybody teach my kid, you know. Yeah. Because a lot of decisions, I think, are being based on lack of education information. Yeah. So the more that can be provided to the parent up front, the better they feel about opting in to, you know, what is being taught to their kids. Because it's good stuff, but I think that they may not get a chance to realize that because they don't have a lot of information unless they seek it out.
We had, in the past, when we used Esteem, we had a link on our website where parents could go and they could get some sample pages that we put in there. They could ask questions that we could respond to. They could see some of the, you know, the main topics. So we had a link and we would, of course, do that again.
And I would just suggest maybe telling parents what is not going to be taught. And forgive me for being kind of rude, but you know, I think there's parents who've heard that in certain school districts their kids are being taught how to put a condom on a banana. So if that's something that's not going to be taught, then I think that somehow communicating that to parents to create more of that buy-in and opt-in, just to make sure that they're understanding that, you know, what they've heard is being taught maybe in some districts, what they've heard on the news, this is not being taught in this curriculum.
Well, I think that's a good suggestion. I will say that related to these standards and all the rest of them, CRT or whatever, I'm just going to put it out there. We follow the state standards. We don't deviate from the state standards. We just went around and talked to every single history department. We teach the state standards. And whether you love them or hate them, doesn't matter to me. That's what you're employed to do. So it's the same with this curriculum and everything else. We teach the state standards. That's why we do what the state board tells us to do, because they vetted that. They've had everybody from Tanya to the other side saying this is what, you know, that they've listened to all of that. They made a ruling. We follow the state standards. We feel very strongly about that. We tell teachers don't veer from it. Don't give your personal opinion. Just teach the standards. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, teaching kids how to put condoms on is not part of our state standards. Therefore, there would never be any reason for it to be taught in the classroom or discussed in the classroom. And we do teach teachers how to redirect conversations if kids try to get us off topic and try to get us down that road.
Mm-hmm. And I just think parents need to know that. Yep. Because there are still parents out there who think that that's what the sex ed curriculum is going to do. Mm-hmm. And so making it very clear, I think, just helps with the opting in.
Yep. In fact, every employee in our district takes a course, a required course that explains what you're supposed to be doing in class, how you deal with controversial subjects, what you're supposed to say, what you're not supposed to say. We feel very strongly about that, that it's not our job to go all rogue.
Are you ready to entertain a motion?
Yeah.
I make a motion that the SHAC approves this new curriculum to pass on to the school board.
Second.
Can you remind me your name?
Laura Rhodes.
Laura
Rhodes.
Rose, sorry.
Yep.
I'll just get that in notes.
Yeah. It's a funny spelling. So.
So I will put this in front of the board in September. And the other thing that'll go in front of the board is the SHAC committee. We have to take that in front of the board as well. So if you guys want to come that night, we would love to have you. It's going to be September 20th at 7 o'clock in the Davidson room at Plyler. And the committee has to be approved, which is you, and then also I'll put the curriculum in front of the board as well. So we'd love to have you stand up and let everybody recognize you as part of the SHAC committee, and then also just let them know that y'all voted on the committee and, on the curriculum.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else they would like to discuss today? That's pretty much it for our agenda.
For those of us who are new, is there a place where we could get a copy of the bylaws?
Yes, so it's on the Health Services website. If you go to the departments page on Tyler ISD website, then there is a SHAC link, and I can send that out whenever I email the minutes out after Chastity types them up. I'm going to email the minutes to everybody, and then I can apply. I'll send out the link to the website as well. The bylaws are there, and it also has a link to the DSHS website, which is like everything SHAC for Texas. So if you ever have any questions about what is SHAC, what is the SHAC supposed to do, it's all there. And then once we get the recordings and things uploaded, we have to upload that within 10 days as well. So that would be on the website as well. So, and then my contact information, email, if you have that, up there. So our next meeting is scheduled for November 16th. We will be right here. Same time, yes ma'am. We love to provide lunch for y'all, so if anybody knows another business in town that would like to sponsor that, just let me know. We usually like to have that donated. But if anybody doesn't have anything else, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting for today.